So there I was, walking down those big marble steps outside the courthouse, and I had these papers in my purse. Divorce papers. After 3 whole years, I was finally gonna end this thing. My hands were shaking like crazy. I grabbed the metal railing because my palms were all sweaty. The sun was going down and making long shadows on the streets. But I didn't feel warm at all. I felt cold. Cold like I'd been feeling since the day I signed my life away to a man I barely even knew. A man whose name made tough criminals whisper prayers. I should have felt happy, right? The papers were filed. In 6 months, I'd be free from him. Free from Rico Dante. But freedom felt more like falling off a cliff. The street smelled like car exhaust mixed with food from the vendors. And I could smell the expensive perfume from the business ladies walking past. I pulled my old thin coat tighter around me. I suddenly realized I didn't belong in this fancy part of the city anymore. When I married Rico, I got thrown into a world of silk dresses and champagne, but I never really fit in. I was like a little bird in a golden cage, pretty to look at, but nobody really cared about me. My phone buzzed. I didn't even need to look to know who it was. Mrs. Dante. His voice sounded smooth but dangerous when I finally answered. Every word was careful and measured. Where are you out? My voice came out way smaller than I wanted. Even over the phone, Rico made me feel like he was right there controlling everything around me. That's not an answer. Then I heard him pause. I could hear him moving around, the sound of his expensive clothes, the click of his leather shoes on the wood floor. Tony says you left the apartment 3 hours ago. You haven't been shopping. You haven't been to the art gallery. So I'll ask again, where are you? Of course he had someone following me. I should have known. I had errands. The lie tasted bitter in my mouth. Errands. He repeated the word like he was looking at it super close. Like he was trying to find the lie hiding inside. What kind of errands need you to visit a divorce lawyer? My heart literally stopped. The street noise faded away. How did you? Did you really think I wouldn't know? His voice got lower, and I could picture him now, standing by those huge windows in his office, one hand in his pocket. His dark eyes looking at something far away while he figured out his next move. Did you think you could just walk away from me? It's just a contract, Rico. I forced my voice to sound strong, even though I didn't feel strong at all. A business deal, you said so yourself. I say a lot of things. I heard a door close. The sound changed, telling me he'd gone somewhere private. Come home, Elena. Now. I can't keep doing this. The words just burst out before I could stop them. I can't keep pretending this is a real marriage when you what? His voice was super soft now. Dangerously soft. When I give you everything you could possibly need. When I protect you from a world that would chew you up and spit you out. When I make sure no man even looks at you the wrong way. That's exactly the problem. A woman walking by gave me a weird look, so I lowered my voice. You treat me like I'm a thing you own, not a person. I'm suffocating. Silence stretched between us. All I could hear was my own rough breathing. Where are you? He asked again, and this time there was something new in his voice. Something that made my skin prickle. It doesn't matter. I'll be home later, Elena. My name was like a command. Tell me where you are or I will find you myself. And you won't like the scene I make when I do. I closed my eyes, defeated. 5th and Main, near the fountain. Don't move, the line went dead. I should have run right then. Should have gotten on a bus, a train, anything. Disappeared into the crowds like I'd planned. But my feet stayed stuck to the concrete. Because somewhere deep inside, past all the fear and frustration, was the truth I'd been avoiding for 3 years. I wanted him to come for me. The black SUV showed up 15 minutes later. It cut through traffic like it owned the road, made other drivers swerve out of its way. It pulled up right in front of me, and I watched my own reflection in the dark windows. I looked pale, thin, younger than my 26 years in my cheap coat and wore not boots. The back door opened. Rico didn't get out. He never did. The world came to him. Get in. His voice came from inside the dark vehicle. I hesitated. My fingers tightened on my purse. The divorce papers were in there, proof that I tried to fight back. My desperate try at being free, Elena, a warning and a promise wrapped into 2 syllables. I got in. The door closed behind me with a soft click. It sounded like a prison cell locking. The inside smelled like leather and his cologne. Something dark and expensive that I could never figure out the name of, but it haunted my dreams. The privacy screen between us and the driver was already up. Rico sat in the far corner, one ankle crossed over his knee. His suit jacket was unbuttoned, showing a super white shirt, and a tie that probably cost more than my entire wardrobe. His dark hair was perfectly styled. His jaw was sharp enough to cut glass, but it was his eyes that always got me. Brown so deep they were almost black. Always watching, always thinking. "Show me," he said quietly. "What?" "The papers. Show them to me." My hands shook as I pulled the envelope from my purse. He took it with steady fingers. Our skin touched for just a second. That simple touch sent electricity racing up my arm, and I hated myself for it. He opened the envelope super slowly, pulling out the divorce papers. His face didn't change as he read, but I saw a muscle jump in his jaw, saw the way his fingers tightened just a tiny bit on the paper. Irreconcilable differences. He looked up at me, creative. "It's the truth, the truth." He set the papers aside. His full attention now fixed on me in a way that made me feel pinned down, examined. "You want the truth. The truth is that you're mine. You signed yourself over to me 3 years ago, and that signature meant something. It meant I was desperate." The words exploded out of me. "My father owed you money he couldn't pay, and you offered me a deal. Marriage in exchange for his debt. A business transaction. That's all it was supposed to be. Supposed to be." He leaned forward, closing the distance between us. "And what is it now?" I couldn't answer. Couldn't tell him that somewhere along the way the lines got blurry. That I'd started mixing up his need to own me with actually caring. His jealousy with real feelings. That I'd done the worst thing possible. I'd started to feel something real in this fake arrangement. "You don't love me," I said instead. "You don't even know me. I know you." His voice was soft, but had steel underneath. "I know you take your coffee with way too much sugar and no cream. I know you bite your lip when you're nervous. I know you avoid the east side of the apartment because the art there reminds you of your mother. I know you read romance books on your tablet late at night and cry at the endings." Heat rushed to my cheeks. "That doesn't mean. I know you filed those papers today because yesterday you saw me with Victoria at the charity event." His eyes never left mine. "I know you think she's my mistress, isn't she?" The question came out more bitter than I meant. "She's a business associate. Her family controls the ports. We were talking about shipping routes." He reached out and I flinched. But he only tucked a piece of hair behind my ear. "You're jealous. I'm not. You are." His thumb brushed my cheek. "And I find that very interesting considering you're the one trying to leave. Don't do that." I pulled away from his touch even though every cell in my body wanted to lean into it. "Don't twist this around. You keep me locked in that apartment like a prisoner. You have men follow me everywhere. You control every single thing about my life. That's not a marriage, Rico. It's a prison sentence. I protect you. From what I had a life before you. It wasn't fancy, but it was mine. A life." His voice turned harsh. "You were working 3 jobs to pay off your father's gambling debts. You lived in a tiny apartment with broken heating. You ate cheap noodles for dinner 4 nights a week. That's the life you're so eager to go back to." At least it was honest. Tears burned behind my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. At least I wasn't some man's property. The word hung between us like a knife. Rico's face went cold in a way that would have scared anyone else. I'd seen men twice my size go pale when he looked at them like that, but I'd also seen him be gentle with a scared horse. Watched him sit by an old man's bed when he was dying. Seen the way people were loyal to him, not just from fear, but from some twisted kind of respect. "Property," he repeated softly. "Is that what you think you are to me? What else would you call it? He studied me for a long moment. Then pressed a button on the door. Take us home, Tony. The long way. The SUV pulled back into traffic. Rico reached for a bottle of golden liquid I hadn't noticed before. He poured himself some into a glass. It was probably whiskey older than me. He took a slow sip. 3 years ago. He started talking in that voice he used when he was about to tell me something important. Your father came to me with an offer. He had information I needed. Names, locations, account numbers. In exchange, he wanted his debts forgiven. I'd heard this story before, but something in his tone made me listen different now. I could have taken the information by force, should have, but he had a daughter. Rico looked at me over his glass. He showed me your picture, said you were studying art history, working multiple jobs to support yourself because he'd gambled away your college money. Said you deserved better than to inherit his mistakes. My throat got tight. I agreed to forgive his debts on one condition. You would marry me. He thought I wanted a trophy wife, someone young and pretty to show off at events. Maybe that's what I let him think. He set down his glass, but the truth is, I saw something in that photo. Something soft in a world that had beaten the softness out of me a long time ago. Rico, I'm not finished. His eyes held mine. You walked into my office for our first meeting, wearing a dress from a thrift store and shoes with worn heels. But you held your head high. You looked me in the eye. You tried to negotiate. You insisted on an agreement that protected your stuff. You demanded a separate bedroom. You required that I never mess with your education. Do you remember what I said? I did. I'd never forgotten. You said yes to everything, because I realized in that moment that you weren't soft. You were steel wrapped in silk, and I wanted you more than I'd wanted anything in my entire life. He leaned forward again. And this time when he touched me, his fingers wrapped around my wrist. I didn't pull away. So yes, Elena, I'm possessive. I'm jealous. I keep you close because the idea of you out in the world, vulnerable, unprotected, makes me lose my mind. But you are not my property. You're my obsession. The words hung in the air between us, heavy with meanings I wasn't ready to think about. That's not love. I whispered. No. He agreed. It's not. It's something much more dangerous. Before I could respond, his phone buzzed. He looked at it, and his whole body changed. The mask of the businessman slipped away, replaced by something colder, more deadly. Stay in the car, he ordered, already pressing the intercom. Tony, situation. The driver's voice came through, tense. 3 vehicles, boss. They've been following us since 7th Avenue. Rico's hand moved to his back, and I realized with a shock that he had a gun. He always had a gun, Elena. His voice was calm, but his eyes were like ice. I need you to get on the floor now. What's happening? The SUV suddenly went super fast, throwing me forward. Rico caught me. His body covered mine as he pushed me down into the space by our feet. My heart hammered against my ribs. The sound of squealing tires and angry horns filled the air. Hold on to me, he commanded, one arm wrapped around my shoulders. His other hand still on his weapon. Don't let go. A loud bang echoed through the car. A gunshot, and the back window got all cracked like a spider web, but didn't break. Bulletproof glass. Of course it was bulletproof glass. They've boxed us in, boss, Tony shouted. Rico cursed in Italian, words I'd only heard him use once before. He pressed something on his phone. Marcus, I need backup on Riverside. 3 bad guys. Now, another shot, then another. I pressed against Rico's chest, breathing in his cologne mixed with the sharp smell of my own fear. I realized that my divorce papers, my carefully made escape plan, meant nothing because someone was trying to kill us, and the man I'd been trying to leave might be the only thing keeping me alive. The SUV swerved hard, throwing me against Rico's chest. His arm tightened around me, holding me in place. Tony cursed and went faster through what sounded like a red light. Horns blared. More gunshots cracked through the air, but they sounded far away now, fading, status. Rico barked into his phone. His voice was steady despite all the chaos. 2 minutes out, boss, a voice answered. Hold position at the warehouse district. Copy. He ended the call and looked down at me. His hand cupped the back of my head. Are you hurt? I shook my head. I couldn't form words. My whole body was shaking. My teeth were chattering from all the adrenaline. This was his world. The world I'd been protected from behind the walls of the apartment. Behind the guards and the dark windows and the carefully built pretend normal life. Breathe, Elena. His thumb traced circles on my head. A surprisingly gentle move. In through your nose, out through your mouth. You're safe, safe. The word was almost funny. We'd just been shot at. The SUV made another sharp turn. I heard tires squealing on concrete. We were inside now. The echo of the engine told me we'd gone into some kind of building. A warehouse, like the voice had said. Clear, Tony announced. Rico helped me up slowly. His eyes scanned me for injuries I didn't have. My coat had ridden up, my hair had fallen from its clip, and I could feel the start of what would probably be a bruise on my shoulder from where I'd hit the door. Let me see. His fingers were already pushing aside my coat, checking the tender spot. I'm fine. I managed, finally finding my voice. What the heck was that? Enemies. He said it like that explained everything. Like being chased and shot, it was just another Tuesday in his world. Tony, call Dr. Ryan. Tell him to meet us at the safe house. I don't need a doctor. You're going to be checked anyway. Rico's tone left no room for arguing. He opened his door, stepping out first. His body was still positioned between me and any danger. Come, the warehouse was huge, filled with wooden boxes and the smell of motor oil and something else. Something metallic I didn't want to think about. 3 more vehicles were already there. Men in dark suits came out of them like shadows becoming solid. They all moved with the same smooth, alert way, like predators. One of them came close, older than the others, with silver in his hair and a scar running down his left cheek. Boss, we took out 2 of the vehicles. The 3rd got away, but we have people tracking it. Good. Rico's hand found the small of my back, guiding me toward one of the other SUV. I want names by morning, Marcus, and I want to know how they knew our route. The implication hung heavy in the air. Someone had told them, someone on the inside. Marcus's eyes flicked to me, something unreadable in their depths. Then he turned away. Rico opened the door of a different vehicle. This one was even more reinforced than the last. I noticed the inside was similar but somehow more simple, designed to work, not to be comfortable. He helped me inside, then slid in beside me. Where are we going? I asked as the vehicle started moving. It was surrounded by the others in a tight group. Somewhere safe. He was texting super fast on his phone. His jaw was tight. The apartment's not safe if they knew we'd be on that route. Not safe, I repeated the word, trying to understand everything. Rico, who were those people? Does it matter? He didn't look up from his phone. Yes, it matters. Someone just tried to kill us, kill me, he corrected, finally meeting my eyes. You were just in the wrong place. They didn't know you were in the car. The casual way he said it, like my almost, death was just bad luck, made something snap inside me. And that makes it better, that I could have died because I happened to be in the wrong car with you. It makes it my responsibility. His voice got hard, which is why you're going to stay exactly where I put you until this is handled. I want to go home, you can't, then I want to go to my father's. Your father is already at the safe house. Rico put away his phone, giving me his full attention now. I sent men to get him the moment the shooting started. He's being protected, of course he was. Rico thought of everything. How long? I asked quietly, as long as it takes. He studied my face. I wondered what he saw there. This is what I was protecting you from, Elena. This is why I keep you close. Because the moment you step outside my protection, you become a target, a weakness, something my enemies can use against me. So I'm supposed to what? Live in hiding. Become your prisoner for real now instead of just in theory. You were never a prisoner. His hand found mine, fingers holding on despite my trying to pull away. But you need to understand something. The life I lead, the choices I've made, they have consequences. And those consequences don't stop just because you filed divorce papers. The safe house turned out to be a huge estate an hour outside the city, surrounded by high walls and enough security to guard a military base. The vehicle passed through 3 checkpoints before finally pulling up to a modern building of glass and steel. It looked more like something from an architecture magazine than a hideout. My father was waiting inside. His face was gray with worry. He rushed forward the moment he saw me, pulling me into a hug that smelled of cigarettes and cheap aftershave. "Thank God," he breathed. "They said there was shooting." "I'm fine, Dad." I hugged him back, suddenly exhausted. "We're both fine, Mr. Torres." Rico's voice cut through our reunion, polite but firm. "Maria will show you to your room." "I suggest you rest." It wasn't really a suggestion. My father pulled back. His eyes moved between Rico and me. He looked older than I remembered, more worn down. The gambling had aged him, but so had the guilt. I could see it in the lines around his mouth, the way his shoulders curved inward. "Alina," he started. "Go, Dad. It's okay." He nodded, following a middle-aged woman in a neat uniform up the curved stairs. I watched him go, feeling the weight of everything pressing down on my chest. "You need to eat," Rico said. "When's the last time you had food?" I couldn't remember. This morning, yesterday, time had become weird, stretching and squeezing in ways that made no sense. He led me through the house, past rooms filled with expensive furniture and art that probably cost more than most people's houses, to a kitchen that was all marble counters and professional appliances. He pulled out a chair at the island. A wordless command, I sat. Rico moved through the kitchen surprisingly well, pulling ingredients from the huge fridge. He'd rolled up his sleeves at some point, showing strong arms marked with faded scars I'd seen before but never had the courage to ask about. "You cook?" I asked, surprised. "When necessary." He set a pan on the stove, adding olive oil like he'd done it a million times. My mother said all her kids had to learn. She said a man who couldn't feed himself was a man who could be controlled. It was more personal information than he'd shared in 3 years of marriage. I watched him work, cutting vegetables, seasoning chicken with what looked like rosemary and thyme. The normalcy of it was weird against what we'd just escaped from. "Tell me about the contract," I said finally, "the real reason you wanted to marry me." His hands stopped for a second, then kept working. "I told you in the car. You told me you were obsessed with me. That's not a reason. It's a symptom." I leaned forward on my elbows. "What did you really want, Rico?" He was quiet for so long. I thought he wouldn't answer. Then, an heir. The word hit me like a punch. What? My family expects it. My position demands it. He put the food on a plate with exact movements. Then set it in front of me. "Eat, I'm not hungry. Eat or I'll feed you myself." His eyes met mine. "Don't test me on this, Alina." "Not tonight." I picked up the fork with shaking hands, taking a bite of chicken I couldn't taste. He watched until I'd swallowed, then poured 2 glasses of wine, red, expensive, in crystal glasses that caught the light. "You never touched me," I said quietly. "In 3 years, we've never." "I know." "Why?" He took a long drink of wine before answering. "Because you weren't ready. Because you looked at me like I was a monster on our wedding night. And I decided I'd rather have you hate me from far away than fear me up close." The honesty of it stole my breath. I'd expected manipulation, possessiveness, entitlement, not this raw truth that he'd been waiting. Waiting for what? For me to come to him willingly. The separate bedrooms. I continued, pieces clicking together. The hands, off approach, that was all part of the deal. Yes, he set down his glass, but also necessary for both of us. "I don't understand, don't you?" He moved around the island, coming to stand beside me. Not touching but close enough that I could feel the heat of him. Smell his cologne mixed with the herbs he'd been cooking with. "You think you're the only one affected by this arrangement? You think I sleep peacefully knowing you're 20 feet away, behind a door I can't open." My heart hammered. "Rico, I think about you constantly." His voice dropped lower, more intimate. "I imagine what you're reading, whether you're cold, if you're thinking about me. I listen for your footsteps in the hall. I track your breathing on the security feeds to make sure you're sleeping well. I'm consumed by you, Elena, every single day. I should have been terrified, should have been disgusted by the invasion of privacy, the obsessive watching, but instead heat pulled low in my belly, and I hated myself for the way my body responded to his words. That's not healthy, I whispered. No, he agreed, it's not, but it's honest. His fingers traced the line of my jaw and I shivered. Which is more than I can say for those divorce papers you filed. What do you mean? You don't want to leave me, Elena. You want me to give you a reason to stay. His thumb brushed across my lower lip. You want me to fight for you? To prove that you're more than a contract, more than a debt repaid. You want to matter, that's not. But my protest died as his hand slid into my hair, tilting my head back. Lie to yourself if you need to, he murmured, his mouth inches from mine. But don't lie to me. Not anymore. He was going to kiss me. After 3 years of distance and careful boundaries, Rico was finally going to cross the line we'd both been dancing around since the day we met. And God help me, I wanted him to. His phone buzzed. He closed his eyes briefly, jaw clenching, then stepped back and answered. What? Whatever the person on the other end said made his whole body go stiff. When, a pause, understood. More security. No one in or out without my direct say-so. He ended the call and looked at me with a face I couldn't read. We have a problem, another one. My voice came out shakier than I wanted. The attack wasn't random. He put away his phone. It was planned with something else. Someone broke into the apartment tonight while we were gone. They were looking for something specific. What you? His eyes held mine. They were looking for information about you. Your background, your family, your connection to me. He moved to the window, staring out at the dark grounds. Someone knows about the contract, about why I married you. The meaning became clear slowly. My father's information, the names and accounts he gave you, among other things. Rico turned back to me. It seems someone thinks you know more than you do, which means they'll come for you again. And next time they won't care about you just being in the wrong place. The food I'd eaten felt heavy in my stomach. So what now? Now? He smiled, but there was no humor in it. Now I do what I should have done from the beginning. I make sure everyone knows exactly what you are to me. No more distance, no more separate bedrooms. No more pretending this is just a contract. What are you saying? Rico crossed back to me, pulling me to my feet. His hands framed my face, forcing me to look at him. I'm saying the divorce is off, Elena. I'm saying you're mine. Really, truly mine, and I'm going to make sure the entire world knows it. His mouth curved into something dangerous. Starting now, I should have protested, should have pushed him away, demanded my freedom. Clung to those divorce papers that were probably still sitting in the shut-up SUV somewhere. Instead, I stood frozen as Rico's words sank in, his hand still holding my face like I was something precious and breakable. You can't just decide that, I finally managed, but my voice lacked conviction. I have. He let go of me, but only to take my hand, leading me out of the kitchen. Come, you need rest. Where are we going? To bed? My heart stuttered. Rico. To sleep, Elena. He glanced back at me. Something almost amused flickering across his face. I'm not an animal. When I finally have you, it won't be because you're exhausted and scared. It'll be because you beg me for it. The confidence in that statement should have made me mad. Instead, it sent a shiver down my spine that had nothing to do with fear. He led me up the stairs, down a hall lined with abstract paintings that probably cost more than I'd earn in my whole life. The house was silent except for our footsteps on the wood floor and the distant hum of security systems. Guards were posted at different spots. I could feel them even when I couldn't see them. Shadows within shadows. Rico stopped at a set of double doors, pushing them open to show a bedroom that was somehow both fancy and simple. A huge bed took up most of the space, dressed in white sheets that looked impossibly soft. Floor to ceiling windows overlooked the grounds. But I noticed they were tinted, bulletproof like everything else in his world. This is your room, he said. Mine is next door. There's a connecting door. He pointed to an entrance I hadn't noticed, but it locks from your side. You have complete control over whether it stays open or closed. I stared at him. You're giving me a choice. I've always given you choices, Elena. He moved to a dresser, pulling out what looked like silk pajamas in my size. Of course, they were my size. You just haven't always seen them as choices. That's not true. You've controlled everything. I've protected everything. He corrected, setting the pajamas on the bed. There's a difference, but if you want to see it as control, that's up to you. He headed for the door, then stopped. Doctor, Ryan will be here in an hour to check you. Please don't argue with him. He's annoying when patients are difficult. I don't need, humor me, it wasn't a request. After that, you should sleep. Tomorrow we deal with whoever thinks they can touch what's mine. He left before I could respond, the door clicking shut with a sound that made me feel suddenly very alone. I sank onto the bed, the events of the day crashing over me like a wave. This morning, I'd been so sure. Filed the papers, waited out the 6 months, got my life back, simple. Now I was in a safe house, my father was down the hall. And someone wanted me dead, or worse, wanted to use me to get to Rico. And Rico himself had just declared he owned me. In a way that should have scared me, but instead made something hot and dangerous unfurl in my chest. I was so tired of fighting, tired of pretending I didn't notice the way he looked at me when he thought I wasn't watching. Tired of lying awake in my separate bedroom, wondering what would happen if I just walked through his door one night. The divorce papers had been a last desperate try to force myself away from something I knew would destroy me. Because loving Rico Dante was a death sentence of a different kind, slow and sweet and inevitable, Doctor. Ryan turned out to be a gruff man in his 60s with kind eyes and gentle hands. He checked me thoroughly, looking at the bruise on my shoulder, taking my blood pressure, asking questions about pain and dizziness I didn't have. You're remarkably calm, he observed, packing up his medical bag. Most people who have just been shot at are still shaking. I'm shaking on the inside, I said honestly. He smiled, the expression changing his stern features. You're good for him, you know. Rico, I've known him since he was a boy. Never seen him care about anything the way he cares about you. He cares about power, control. He cares about you, Doctor, Ryan insisted. Why else would he have called me at midnight, demanded I drop everything and come check you for a bruise? Why else would he have every man in his organization hunting for the people who dared to threaten you? He patted my hand. That boy is terrified of losing you, whether he knows how to say it or not. After he left, I changed into the silk pajamas. They fit perfectly, of course, and climbed into the huge bed. The sheets smelled like lavender and something else. Something that reminded me of Rico's cologne. He'd probably had them specially prepared. I should have been angry about him assuming. Instead, I buried my face in the pillow and tried not to think about the fact that one door away, he was probably lying awake too. Sleep came eventually, but it was broken and full of dreams. Gunshots and cold eyes, Enrico's hands on my face, his voice saying mine, mine, mine. Like a prayer or a curse, I woke to sunlight streaming through the windows and the smell of coffee. Rico sat in an armchair near the window, fully dressed in another perfect suit, a laptop balanced on his knee. He looked up when I moved, something softening in his expression. Good morning. I sat up, suddenly aware of my messy sleep hair and the way the silk clung to my body. How long have you been there? A few hours. He closed the laptop, setting it aside. You talk in your sleep. Heat flooded my cheeks. What did I say? Nothing clear, but the way he smiled, slow and dangerous, told me I'd said something he'd enjoyed hearing. There's breakfast downstairs. Your father is already up eating enough for 3 people. I think Maria has adopted him. The normalcy of the statement was jarring. Did you find out who attacked us? The smile vanished. We're working on it. I have people looking at security footage, tracking the car that escaped. We'll have answers soon, and then what? Then I handle it. He stood, moving to the bed. But that's not your concern. Your concern is staying safe, staying here, and letting me do what I do best, which is taking care of threats. He said it so casually, like he was talking about the weather instead of violence. Now get dressed. I had clothes brought for you. They are in the closet. Breakfast in 20 minutes. He headed for the door, but I called after him. Rico. He turned back. Thank you for protecting my father. Something flickered in his eyes. Surprise maybe, or pleasure. He's important to you. That makes him important to me. A pause, even if he is a terrible card player with worse judgment. Despite everything, I almost smiled. Breakfast was a weird thing. My father sat at one end of a long dining table, chatting happily with Maria about her grandson's soccer team. Rico sat at the head, looking at documents while sipping espresso, and I sat between them, feeling like I'd stepped into some alternate reality where we were a normal family having a normal morning, except for the armed guards visible through the windows, and the way Rico's phone buzzed constantly with updates I wasn't told about, and the tension in my father's shoulders that told me he understood exactly how much danger we were in. Dad, my father said suddenly, setting down his fork, I want to apologize for putting Elena in this position. For the debts, the information, all of it. If I'd known, you'd have what? Rico didn't look up from his papers. Made different choices, gambled less, been a better father. The words were harsh, but his tone was almost conversational. Still, I saw my father flinch. Rico, I said quietly. Now he did look up, his eyes meeting mine. Something passed between us. A question maybe, or a test. Your father made his choices. Rico continued, his gaze still locked with mine. Just as I made mine, just as Elena is making hers. He finally looked at my father. The debts are forgiven. The information you provided has been valuable. Your daughter has more than paid for your mistakes. But if you ever put her at risk again, if you ever gamble, borrow, or make deals that could come back to touch her, I will not be so forgiving. It wasn't a threat. It was a promise. My father nodded, his face pale, understood. Good. Rico stood, gathering his papers. Elena, I need you in my office in an hour. We need to talk about next steps. What next steps? How we're going to make your divorce petition disappear. He said it like it was already decided. And how we're going to convince everyone that our marriage is not only real but unbreakable. Before I could argue, he was gone, leaving me alone with my father and the weight of what he just declared. Elena, my father said quietly, you don't have to do this. If you really want out, I'll find a way. There is no way. I pushed away my plate, appetite gone. You heard him. This isn't about the contract anymore. It's about something else entirely. What? I thought about Rico's hands in my hair, his voice saying you're mine with such certainty. I thought about the way he'd covered my body with his own when the shooting started, the way he'd called for a doctor over a simple bruise, the way he'd been sitting in my room this morning like he couldn't bear to be far from me. I don't know yet. I admitted, but I'm going to find out. Rico's office was all dark wood and leather, shelves lined with books in Italian and English. Business texts, philosophy, literature. A large desk took up most of the space, covered in monitors and files. He stood at the window when I came in, his back to me, phone pressed to his ear. I don't care what it costs. He was saying in Italian, find them, bring them to me alive if possible. A pause, yes, all of them. I want to know who gave the order. He ended the call and turned to face me. Closed the door. I did, my heart hammering. The Rico in this room was different from the one at breakfast. Harder, colder. Every inch the dangerous man whose name made criminals cross themselves. Sit, he pointed to a leather chair across from his desk. I sat, hands folded in my lap to hide their shaking. He pulled up something on one of his monitors, turning it so I could see. Security footage from the apartment. Time-stamped from last night. I watched as two figures, masked, dressed in black, moved through our home with scary efficiency. They went straight for Rico's study, then to my room. They knew the layout, Rico said. They knew exactly where to look, which means either someone who's been inside gave them information, or they've been watching us for a while. I finished, ice forming in my stomach. Exactly. He pulled up another image, this one of documents spread across my desk in my bedroom. My journals, my sketchbooks, my laptop open to my email. They took pictures of everything, every personal detail they could find. Why? Because knowledge is power, Elena, and someone wants power over you. He closed the images, which brings us to our solution. Which is, Rico came around the desk, sitting on the edge right in front of me. We make you untouchable. We turn you from a weakness into something so valuable that harming you would start a war no one can afford. How? His eyes held mine. By making our marriage real. By bringing you fully into my world, my business, my life. By making sure everyone knows that to touch you is to touch me. You want to use me as bait. I want to make you my partner. He reached out, tucking a strand of hair behind my ear. There's a difference, is there? I searched his face. Or is this just another way to control me? Maybe. His thumb traced my cheekbone, but it's also the only way to keep you alive. The truth of it settled over me like a heavy blanket. There was no going back now. The moment I'd filed those divorce papers, I'd set something in motion that neither of us could stop. What do I have to do? I asked quietly. Rico smiled. Slow, satisfied, dangerous. First, cancel the divorce petition. Second, move your things into my bedroom. Third, his hand slid into my hair. Let me show the world exactly who you belong to. The word belong should have triggered every part of me that wanted to be independent. Should have made me pull away, demand respect, insist on my freedom. Instead, something dark and hungry stirred inside me at the possessiveness in his voice. And what do I get in return? I asked, surprised by the steadiness in my tone. Rico's eyes gleamed with approval. Smart girl, always negotiate. He let go of me, moving back to his desk, suddenly all business, full access to all accounts, personal and business. Your name on everything I own, a seat at the table during meetings. Real power, not just the appearance of it. Why would you give me that? Because if you're going to be my partner, you need the tools to protect yourself. He pulled out a file, sliding it across the desk. This is everything I own. Properties, investments, shell companies, legitimate businesses. It's yours, all of it. I stared at the file like it might bite me. This is insane. This is survival. He leaned back in his chair, studying me. You think I've stayed alive this long by doing things halfway? When I commit to something, I commit completely. And I'm committing to you, Elena, to keeping you safe, to making this marriage into something neither of us can walk away from, even if we want to, especially if you want to. His smile was sharp, because despite what you filed yesterday, you don't really want to leave. You just want to know that you matter, that you're more than a transaction. I hated that he was right. Fine, I stood, gathering every bit of courage I had. But I have conditions, of course you do. He gestured for me to continue. No more watching in my private spaces. No more tracking my every move, and, I took a breath, you tell me the truth about everything. Your business, your enemies, the real reason someone wants to hurt me. No more protection through keeping me in the dark. Rico was quiet for a long moment, his fingers drumming on the desk. When he finally spoke, his voice was measured. The surveillance stays, but I'll limit it to security, feeds only. No audio, no personal monitoring. The tracking is non-negotiable until this threat is handled. But the truth? He stood, coming around to face me. The truth might be worse than what you've imagined, Elena. Try me. He studied my face, then nodded slowly. Your father's information led to taking down the Casello family's money operation. They lost over $200 million. Vincent Casello, the head of the family, swore revenge against everyone involved. My blood ran cold, and my father was supposed to die 6 months ago. Car accident made to look natural. I prevented it. Rico's jaw tightened. I've been preventing it every day since, but now they know about you. They know that hurting you hurts me worse than killing your father ever could. So yesterday was the Casellos making their move, testing my defenses, seeing how far they could push. His hand found my chin, tilting my face up, and they discovered something I've tried very hard to hide. That you're not just a contract wife, you're my weakness. The admission hung between us, raw and honest. Then maybe we should get divorced, I whispered. Maybe that would keep me safe. You think they'd believe it? His laugh was bitter. After 3 years, after the way I've guarded you, they'd think it was a trick. And they'd be right. There's no walking away from this, Elena. Not for either of us. So I'm trapped. We both are. His thumb brushed across my lower lip. The question is whether we're going to fight each other while we're trapped, or whether we're going to fight them together. Before I could answer, his phone buzzed. He looked at it, and something dark crossed his face. They found one of the shooters, and he's being delivered here now. Rico's eyes met mine. I'm going to ask you something, and I need you to think carefully before you answer. What? Do you want to know what I do to people who threaten what's mine? The question was a test. I understood that right away. He was offering me a look behind the curtain. A chance to see the monster everyone else saw when they looked at him. I should have said no. Should have kept the comfortable fiction that I could love him without accepting all of him. Yes, I heard myself say, show me. Something fierce and approving flashed in his eyes. Then come with me. But Alina, he caught my wrist, his grip gentle but firm. Once you see this, you can't unsee it. Once you know exactly what I'm capable of, there's no going back to the pretend version. I don't want the pretend version anymore. The truth of it surprised me. I want reality, all of it. He searched my face for a long moment. Then nodded, stay close to me. Don't speak unless I tell you to. And if at any point it becomes too much, you leave. Understood, understood. Rico led me down into the basement, a space I hadn't known existed. The temperature dropped with each step, and the polished fancy look of the upper floors gave way to concrete and steel. We passed through 3 security doors, each needing both a key card and a fingerprint scan. The room at the end of the hall was bare. A single chair sat in the center, bolted to the floor. Drains were positioned at different spots in the concrete. The walls were empty except for a cabinet I didn't want to look at too closely. 2 of Rico's men stood guard, and between them, tied to the chair, face bloody and swollen, was a man I didn't recognize. Boss, Marcus appeared from the shadows. He's been stubborn, but I think he'll talk now. Rico nodded, taking off his suit jacket and handing it to me without a word. He rolled up his sleeves with careful precision, and I noticed for the first time the scars on his arms weren't just faded. They were deliberate, patterned. Someone had cut him over and over in the same places. Mr. Bennett, Rico said in a conversational tone, walking toward the tied-up man. Thank you for joining us. Screw you. The man spat, blood dripping from his split lip. Creative. Rico pulled up a second chair, sitting down with casual grace. Let's start simple. Who hired you? I don't know what you're talking about. Rico's fist shot out so fast I barely saw it move. The crack of impact echoed off the concrete walls. The man's head snapped back. More blood splattered the floor. Let's try again, Rico said, his voice never rising. Who hired you to shoot at my car yesterday? You're going to kill me anyway. True, Rico stood, moving to the cabinet. When he turned back, he held a knife, simple, plain, terrifying in its simplicity. But there are many ways to die, Mr. Bennett. Some are quick, others, he let the sentence hang, take considerably longer. I should have been horrified, should have run from the room, from this man, from the casual violence happening in front of me. But I couldn't move, couldn't look away from Rico's face, calm, controlled, completely without mercy. This was the man who had killed for me, would kill for me again, would burn the world down if it meant keeping me safe. And God help me, some twisted part of me found that intoxicating. The Casellos, the man finally gasped. Vincent Casello himself gave the order. Good. Rico set the knife down and the break-in at my apartment. Same boss. Yes, he wanted information on your wife. Her routines, her connections, anything that could be used. Used how? The man hesitated and Rico picked up the knife again. Leverage. The man practically screamed it. He's planning something bigger, an exchange, your wife for something he wants. What does he want? The drives? The ones her father handed over. He thinks you still have copies. Thinks you're holding them over him. Rico went very still. And does he plan to return her alive after this exchange? Silence. Answer the question, Mr. Bennett. No, the man whispered. He plans to send her back in pieces. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 20 degrees. Rico's hand tightened on the knife, his knuckles going white. When he spoke, his voice was soft, barely above a whisper, and more terrifying than any shout could have been. Thank you for your honesty. He turned to Marcus. Make it quick? He cooperated. Boss, Marcus nodded. Rico crossed back to me, taking his jacket and putting it back on. His hands were steady as he buttoned it, but I saw the fury in his eyes barely contained. Come, he said quietly. I followed him out, back through the security doors, up the stairs. We didn't speak until we were in his office again. Door closed, the sounds of the basement far behind us. Now you know, he said, moving to pour himself a drink. That's what I am, what I do. I crossed to him, taking the glass from his hand and setting it down. His eyes widened slightly as I placed my palms flat against his chest, feeling his heart hammering beneath the expensive fabric. You protected me, I said quietly. That man would have killed me without a second thought. And you're going to make sure Vincent Casello can't hurt my father or me or anyone else you care about? That doesn't make it right. I'm not asking about right. I looked up at him. I'm asking if you'll keep me safe. If you'll do whatever it takes, yes, no hesitation always, then show me. The words came out breathless. Show me that I'm yours. Make it real, Rico, all of it. His control snapped. One moment I was standing. The next I was pressed against his desk. Rico's mouth on mine, with a hunger that 3 years of holding back had only made sharper. His hands were in my hair, on my waist, pulling me closer like he could merge us into one person. I kissed him back with equal desperation, tasting whiskey and danger and something darker. My fingers fumbled with his tie, loosening it, needing fewer barriers between us. Elena, he groaned against my mouth. If we do this, then we do this. I bit his lower lip, happy when he growled. No more separate rooms, no more distance. You want me to be yours, then take me, claim me, make it so real that there's no doubt in anyone's mind, including mine. He pulled back, his eyes searching mine. You understand what you're agreeing to. This isn't just physical, Elena. This is surrender, complete and total, only if it goes both ways. I held his gaze. You want me to surrender to you, then you surrender to me too. No more walls, no more secrets. We do this together, or we don't do it at all. For a long moment, I thought he might refuse, might pull away and rebuild the careful distance we'd kept for 3 years. Instead, he lifted me onto his desk, scattering papers, stepping between my thighs. His forehead rested against mine, our breathing ragged and in sync. You're going to ruin me, he whispered. Good. I pulled him closer. You've been ruining me since the day we met. His phone buzzed, insistent, urgent. He ignored it. It buzzed again. Rico, let it ring. His mouth found my throat, teeth grazing the sensitive skin there. The world can wait, but the phone kept buzzing, and eventually, reluctantly, he pulled back far enough to look at it. Whatever he saw made him curse in Italian. What is it? Casello. He showed me the screen. A text message with a photo attached. My father, unconscious or worse, tied to a chair similar to the one we just left downstairs. He has your father. The world tilted, but he was here. He was at breakfast. That was 2 hours ago. Rico was already moving. Grabbing his jacket, checking his weapon. They must have taken him when we were in the basement, damn it. He pulled up his phone, calling someone. Marcus, we have a breach. I want every man we have searching the area now. He turned to me, his face a mask of controlled fury. Stay here, lock the door. Don't open it for anyone except me. I'm coming with you. No. His hand cupped my face. I need to know you're safe. Please, Elena. For once, just do what I ask without arguing. The fear in his eyes, real raw fear, made me nod. He kissed me once more, hard and possessive, then was gone. And I was left alone in his office, my lips swollen from his kiss, my father in the hands of a man who wanted to send me back in pieces. and the terrible knowledge that I'd just surrendered myself completely to a man who might not be able to protect me after all. The minutes crawled by like hours. I paced Rico's office, my mind going through every terrible possibility. My father's face in that photo, pale, bruised, unconscious. How had they gotten to him? How had they broken through Rico's security? My phone buzzed, an unknown number. I stared at it, hand shaking, knowing I shouldn't answer, but unable to stop myself. "Hello, Mrs. Dante." The voice was smooth, cultured, with a slight Italian accent, or should I say soon-to-be ex-Mrs. "Dante, I understand you filed for divorce. Who is this Vincent Casello? I believe we have a mutual problem. Your husband has something that belongs to me, and I have something that belongs to you." Ice flooded my veins. "If you hurt my father, then you'll what?" He laughed softly. "You have no power here, little bird, but I'm a reasonable man. I'm willing to make an exchange, the drives your father stole from me, delivered by you personally. And I'll return your father alive. Rico will never agree. Then I suppose your father dies." His tone stayed conversational. "You have 2 hours. Come alone to the old shipping warehouse on Pier 17. Bring the drives. If I see any of Dante's men, your father's death will be on your conscience." He paused. "Oh, and Mrs. Dante, I'm looking forward to meeting you. Rico has kept you hidden for so long. I'm curious to see what makes you worth starting a war over." The line went dead. My hands shook as I lowered the phone. 2 hours, Pier 17, come alone. Everything in me screamed to wait for Rico, to tell him, to let him handle this. But the memory of that photo, my father's beaten face, made the decision for me. I moved quickly, searching Rico's desk until I found what I was looking for: a key to his safe, tucked in the back of a drawer. Inside the safe, among stacks of cash and documents I didn't have time to look at, were 3 external hard drives, each labeled with dates and codes I didn't understand. These had to be what Casello wanted, the copies of the information my father had given. I grabbed them, shoving them in my purse along with my phone. Then I hesitated, looking at the handgun also in the safe. I'd never fired a weapon in my life, but the weight of it felt like insurance I couldn't afford to pass up. I took it. Getting out of the house was harder. Guards were posted everywhere, and I had no doubt Rico had ordered them to keep me inside. But I'd spent 3 years being underestimated, being seen as decorative rather than dangerous. I waited until the guard outside Rico's office stepped away to speak into his radio, then slipped out, moving quickly through the halls. I knew there was a service entrance near the kitchen. Maria had mentioned it when showing my father around. The kitchen was empty. I grabbed a coat from the hook by the door and slipped outside into the cold afternoon air. No alarms sounded. No shouts followed me. I made it to the fence around the property and found a section hidden by overgrown bushes. The fence was high, topped with wire, but my desperation made me stronger than I knew. I climbed, ignoring the way the metal cut into my palms, ignoring the tear in my clothes. I dropped to the other side, landing hard. My ankle twisted painfully, but I pushed through it, limping toward the road I could see through the trees. A cab was passing, a miracle. I flagged it down, breathless. Pier 17. I gasped. "Please, it's an emergency." The driver, an older man with kind eyes, took one look at my torn clothes and bleeding hands and nodded. "Get in." The drive took 45 minutes through traffic that made me want to scream. My phone buzzed constantly. Rico calling, texting, calling again. I turned it off, unable to bear the guilt of ignoring him, but knowing that if I answered, he'd track me, and my father would die. Pier 17 was in the old industrial area, long abandoned. Rusted shipping containers created a maze of metal, and the smell of salt water mixed with decay hung heavy in the air. The sun was setting, making everything look orange and shadowy. I paid the driver with cash from my purse and stepped out, my ankle throbbing with each step. "You sure about this, miss?" The driver asked, concerned. "This ain't a safe area, I'm sure, thank you." He drove away reluctantly. And I was alone. The warehouse loomed ahead, a massive building with broken windows and graffiti-covered walls. The door was open, an invitation or a trap, probably both. I stepped inside, my eyes adjusting to the dim light. The space was huge, empty except for old equipment and trash. Footsteps echoed from deeper inside. Mrs. Dante, Vincent Casello emerged from the shadows, and I understood immediately why he commanded fear. He was younger than I'd expected, maybe 50, with silver, streaked hair and the kind of face that would be handsome if not for the coldness in his eyes. Two men flanked him, both armed, and behind them, tied to a chair, was my father, alive, conscious. His eyes widening when he saw me. "Elena, no," he shouted. "Get out of here." One of the guards hit him, and I flinched. "That's enough," Casello said mildly. The girl came as instructed. "Let's be civilized." He turned to me. "Do you have what I asked for?" I pulled the drives from my purse, holding them up. Let him go first. "I don't think so," Casello smiled. "You give me the drives, I verify they're real, then you both go free." "You're lying, perhaps," he shrugged. "But what choice do you have?" He was right. I had no leverage, no backup, no plan beyond getting my father out alive. I stepped forward, holding out the drives. Casello reached for them. The warehouse exploded with light and sound. Rico's men poured in from every entrance, weapons drawn, moving with military precision. Casello's guards tried to react, but they were outnumbered and outmaneuvered within seconds. And then Rico himself appeared, striding through the chaos like an avenging angel. His gun was drawn, his face a mask of cold fury I'd never seen before. "You made a mistake, Vincent." His voice carried across the warehouse. "You touched what's mine, Dante." Casello's composure cracked slightly. "This is a private matter. You kidnapped my father-in-law. You threatened my wife. You tried to use her against me." Rico's gun never wavered. "That stops being private the moment you brought her into this." I stood frozen, the drives still clutched in my hand, as Rico's men secured the area. Marcus appeared beside me, gently taking the drives and guiding me toward my father. "Are you hurt?" my father whispered as I worked on his ropes. "I'm fine. Are you?" "I've been better." His hands were shaking. "Elena, you shouldn't have come." "Of course I came." The ropes fell away and I helped him stand. "You're my father." Rico and Casello were still facing off, the tension between them thick enough to cut. The drives were supposed to be destroyed. Casello said, "You promised." I promised nothing. Rico's smile was sharp. "And now you've given me exactly what I needed. Proof of your family's involvement in trafficking, money laundering, and attempted murder. All captured on the recording devices my wife was wearing." My hand flew to the necklace I'd put on this morning. A gift from Rico I'd thought was just jewelry. Of course it wasn't. Casello's face went white. "You set me up. You set yourself up." Rico finally lowered his gun, but only because Marcus had moved into position behind Casello. "You made this personal when you threatened her. Now it ends. Your family's operation is finished. Your money is frozen, and you," his voice dropped to something deadly, "are going to disappear. You can't. I can, I have, it's already done." Rico finally looked at me, and the fury in his eyes softened into something else. "Guards, take Mr. Casello and his men. The police will be here in 10 minutes to collect them." "Police?" I whispered to Marcus. "Boss made a deal," Marcus murmured. "Information on Casello's operation in exchange for immunity." "Everything's legal, mostly." Rico crossed to me, his hands immediately checking me for injuries. His fingers found the cuts on my palms from the fence, the torn fabric of my clothes, and his jaw clenched. "You left the safe house. I had to. You could have been killed." His voice was rough. "Do you understand that? If Casello had decided to shoot you the moment you walked in. If this had gone wrong, if I kissed him, cut off his words with my mouth on his, pouring 3 years of fear and frustration and desperate foolish love into it. He kissed me back hard, his arms crushing me against him. "Don't ever do that again," he said against my lips. "Don't ever risk yourself like that, my father." I would have gotten him back. I had a plan. I always have a plan. He pulled back enough to look at me, his hands framing my face. But you, God, Alina, you terrify me. You make me weak. You make me care about things beyond power and control and survival. Is that so bad? It's everything. His thumb brushed away a tear I hadn't realized had fallen. I was wrong. In the beginning, when I married you, I told myself it was about an heir. About strategy, but the truth is, I saw your picture and I knew. I knew you'd be the thing that either saved me or destroyed me. And which is it? Both. He smiled, and it was real, warm, transforming his face into something beautiful. You're both, Alina, and I wouldn't have it any other way. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing closer. We need to go, Marcus said quietly, before the police arrive and start asking uncomfortable questions. Rico nodded, keeping one arm around me as we moved toward the exit. My father walked beside us, supported by one of the guards. What happens now? I asked as we came out into the cool evening air. The sun had fully set, stars beginning to appear in the darkening sky. Now, Rico guided me toward one of the waiting SUV. Now, Casello goes to prison for a very long time. His family's empire crumbles, and you. He helped me into the vehicle, sliding in beside me. You move into my bedroom like we agreed. No more separate spaces. No more walls between us. And the divorce papers, withdrawn, destroyed, never mentioned again. His hand found mine, fingers intertwining. You're stuck with me, Mrs. Dante, for better or worse. Probably more worse than better considering my job. I can live with that. I leaned my head against his shoulder, suddenly exhausted. As long as you promise something. What? No more secrets. No more protecting me by keeping me in the dark. If I'm your partner, then I need to know everything. The good, the bad, and the terrifying. He was quiet for a moment, then pressed a kiss to the top of my head. Deal, though I reserve the right to occasionally keep information back if it's to plan a surprise birthday party or anniversary celebration. Despite everything, the fear, the violence, the danger, I laughed. You're going to plan anniversary celebrations. I'm going to try. His arms tightened around me. I'm going to try to be the husband you deserve, Alina. I'll probably fail more often than I succeed, but I'm going to try. That's all I ask. The drive back to the safe house was quiet. My father dozing in the front seat. Rico holding me like he was afraid I might disappear. When we finally arrived, Maria fussed over both my father and me. Insisting on feeding us despite the late hour, Dr. Ryan returned to check my injuries, the cuts on my hands, the twisted ankle, the bruises that were already forming. Rico watched from the doorway, his expression unreadable. She's tough, Dr. Ryan observed, wrapping my palms. Tougher than she looks, I know. Rico's voice was soft. I've always known. Later, after my father was settled in his room, and the house had finally gone quiet, Rico led me to his bedroom, the one next to mine through that connecting door I'd never had the courage to open. It was similar to mine but somehow more personal. Books stacked on the nightstand, a photo on the dresser of a woman who must have been his mother. His reading glasses left carelessly on a chair. This is me, he said quietly, the real me, not the boss, not the businessman. Just Rico. I crossed to the photo, studying the woman's face. She had his eyes, his sharp intelligence. Tell me about her. She was fierce, protective. She ran the household while my father ran the business. But everyone knew she was the real power. He came to stand beside me. She would have liked you, would have appreciated your strength. When did she die? 10 years ago. Cancer. She fought it for 2 years, never complained once. His jaw tightened. My father followed her 6 months later. Couldn't live without her. Is that what you meant when you said obsession runs in your family? Maybe he turned me to face him, his hands gentle on my bandaged palms. Or maybe I just recognized in you what my father saw in my mother. Someone worth building a life around. Someone worth dying for. I'd rather you lived for me. That too. He smiled, then turned serious. I need you to understand something. What we did tonight, what we're doing, it's not without consequences. Casello's arrest will create a power gap. Other families will move to fill it. Things might get dangerous again before they get better. I know, and you're still willing to stay. I thought about the divorce papers, about my desperate try at freedom. I thought about the past 3 years of careful distance and loneliness, and I thought about Rico's arms around me during the shooting. His fury when my father was taken. The way he'd said "you're mine" like it was both a threat and a promise. I'm still willing to stay, I said, but on one condition, name it. You let me in completely. Your business, your decisions, your world. If I'm going to be your partner, then I need to be your actual partner. Not just someone you protect, but someone who stands beside you. He studied my face for a long moment, then nodded slowly. It won't be easy. Some of my associates won't accept a woman at the table. Then they'll learn, I held his gaze, or they'll find themselves on the wrong side of both of us. His smile was slow, dangerous, proud. You're going to be magnificent at this. I know. I reached up, pulling him down for a kiss that tasted like promises and new beginnings. Now take me to bed, husband. We have 3 years to make up for. Yes, ma'am, he lifted me easily, carrying me to the bed despite my protest that my ankle was fine. But Alina, we're doing this my way. Slow, thorough, until you understand exactly what it means to be mine. Heat flooded through me. Is that a threat? It's a guarantee. He set me down on the bed, his eyes dark with promise. By morning, you won't remember why you ever wanted to leave. And as he proved his point through the long hours of the night, with hands that knew exactly how to make me surrender, with words that stripped away every defense I'd built, with a possessiveness that was somehow also reverence, I realized he was right. I'd never wanted to leave. I'd only wanted to matter, and now, tangled in his sheets with dawn breaking through the windows, his heart beating steady beneath my ear, I finally did. 3 months later, I sat at Rico's right hand during a meeting with the heads of the 5 families. My father, sober now, attending support meetings twice a week, sat across from us, serving as an advisor. The divorce papers were ash in Rico's fireplace. My name was on every document that mattered. And when Vincent Casello's former associates tried to question a woman's presence at the table, Rico simply said, she's my wife, she's my partner, and she's smarter than half of you combined. Anyone who has a problem with that can leave. No one left that night, back in the apartment we'd returned to once the threat was gone. Rico found me in his study. Our study now, looking over acquisition reports, working late. He came up behind my chair, his hands settling on my shoulders. Someone has to keep your business running smoothly. I tilted my head back to look at him. Besides, I found something interesting in the Port Authority contracts. Oh, a loophole we can use. Could save us millions and put us in position to control shipping routes from 3 additional territories. His hands tightened on my shoulders. Have I told you lately that you're brilliant? Not in the last hour. I was starting to feel neglected. He laughed, a sound I'd learned to coax from him more often, then pulled me to my feet. His arms wrapping around my waist. Come to bed, Alina. The contracts can wait until morning, can they? I traced the line of his jaw. I thought you wanted me to be a full partner. I do, but I also want my wife in my bed where she belongs. His eyes gleamed. I'm allowed to be possessive occasionally. Occasionally. I raised an eyebrow. Rico, you have guards follow me to the gallery. You review the security feeds daily. You personally check every person I meet. That's not occasional possessiveness. That's a lifestyle choice, and you love it. He wasn't wrong, admit it, Alina. You love knowing I can't stand the idea of anyone else even looking at you. You love that I'm obsessed with keeping you safe. You love that I need you. Maybe. I pulled him down for a kiss. But only because you need me as much as I need you. We're equally obsessed, equally possessive, equally ruined for anyone else. Good, he lifted me, carrying me toward our bedroom, the space we shared now, the connecting door removed entirely, because I planned to keep you ruined for the rest of our lives. And as he proved that point once again, I thought about the girl I'd been 3 months ago, the one who'd filed for divorce, thinking freedom was distance. Thinking safety meant escape, she'd been wrong. Freedom was choosing to stay. Safety was being with someone who'd burn the world down before letting you get hurt. And love, real, terrifying, all-consuming love, was surrendering completely while knowing the other person had surrendered just as much. I'd tried to end our marriage contract, but Rico's jealousy, his possessiveness, his absolute refusal to let me go, had given me something better, a real marriage, a true partnership, a love story written in danger and devotion, and the kind of obsession that poets wrote about and psychologists warned against, and I wouldn't change a single moment of it. "I love you," I whispered against his skin. He stilled, pulling back to look at me. I'd never said it before. Neither had he. The words had felt too small, too weak for what burned between us. "Say it again," he commanded softly. "I love you, Rico Dante. I love you obsessively, possessively, completely." His smile was devastating. "Good, because I've loved you since the moment you walked into my office 3 years ago and negotiated your own terms. I've loved you every day since, even when you were trying to leave me." He kissed me deeply, thoroughly. "And I'll love you until the day I die, probably longer, since I'm too stubborn to let death separate us. That's the most romantic threat anyone's ever made me. I'm a romantic at heart." His hands traced patterns on my skin. "A possessive, jealous, obsessive romantic who finally has exactly what he wants. And what's that? You. Forever, mine, ours," I corrected. "We belong to each other. Remember, ours," he agreed, "forever," and wrapped in his arms. Surrounded by the life we'd built from ashes and contracts and desperate bargains, I finally understood what it meant to be truly free. Not freedom from him, freedom with him, and that made all the difference.